I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Welcome everyone who's in attendance. Very happy to have a nice crowd today, and we appreciate the public who have joined us. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 3:34 and quickly get through the business so that we can get to the business of interviewing candidates that we're here to do. So first, approval of the minutes from the May meeting. I'd like to ask for a motion to dispense with reading of the minutes.
So move.
Any discussion, questions?
None.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have 4 board members present today, and we have our committee chair, Dr. Cowan. So we hearing none opposed, all in favor, motion carries.
I motion.
I'm asking for the monthly report of the Inspector General to be provided in writing. Dane, we have received that.
It's attached to the agenda, yes, ma'am.
So motion to accept that as read.
I motion to accept the minutes as read.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, accepting?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the monthly report of the Office of Independent Police Monitor. We've attached that to the agenda. Do I have a motion to accept that report?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Monthly report of the ethics trainer. Do I have a motion to accept that report as entered?
I move to accept the report.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The last report that we're accepting today is from our General Counsel and Executive Administrator. Do I have a motion to accept?
I motion to accept the report from the General Counsel.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we would like to move on to the business at hand, item number 7. We're here today to interview 3 applicants for the position of Independent Police Monitor, and I will turn that over to Dane. Dane, do we want to ask all 3 applicants to come forward?
I would think just one at a time as they present.
Okay, I'll let you make those introductions and call.
I'm sorry, can we get a copy of the agenda?
The agenda is posted online. Yeah, the first up is Stella Zement in alphabetical order.
Can I get an agenda, please?
Where's Stella?
Can I get an agenda?
I'm sorry, I don't have any field copies. It's online.
Thank you.
You support the agenda.
Figure out how to get your thing.
Oh, man.
That's right around the 7.
Got the squint.
Yeah. I hold it up with the light on. Yeah, I know.
Madam, I have a question. Moving forward, can we have agendas in place for the public? Is that possible, please?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't we take Patrice Rose first, and she's already loaded her.
Okay. Dane, I believe you had some opening comments on the process.
Can we make sure we have agendas in place for the public for our next meeting? Can we make a notation of that, please?
Yes.
I want that to be on the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we, just by way of an overview of the process that brought us all here today, the board voted back in February to commence a national search for an independent police monitor. That search started in February with a publication in numerous national journals. We received more than 160 or 70 applications. Those applications were all distributed to the board. The board engaged Professor Michael Cowan, emeritus professor from LSU, to assist in the review of those applications. After reviewing the applications, the board members sent nominations to you, Madam Chair. From those nominations, you chose 3 people to present today, and that is where we are.
Thank you. I'll add to that there was a review by the committee to make sure that the process and those applicants met the requirements of the code relative to this position. Thank you, Dane.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question, Dana, before we move on. We had over 176 individuals throughout the U.S. that applied for this particular position. Mm-hmm. The qualifications for the individual for this, Dana, I'd like to know if that information is also made public and shared with the community as to what the qualifications that we're looking for.
Absolutely. They're set forth in the Code of Ordinances that the board considered back at its May meeting, and they are public.
Sure. In that process, did we hear from any individuals from the community relative to that, relative to the qualifications? And the reason I ask that question is because, as you know, this position, one of the main parts of this position is more of a liaison, a person, to represent the community as well. And having their information provided for them so they can see exactly this entire process, to be very open and clear, the process in which we went through, okay?
Yeah, the short answer is we had a public meeting in May where all those issues were discussed, and no members of the public attended.
Oh, come on, man.
Okay. I just want to make sure that the public is very aware of what we're doing here today because of the importance of this individual that will hold this post. And it is community-based. So I just want to make sure that, it was, and so you were saying that members of the community, no one attended, and it was published in the newspaper and whatever, the process we go through and notifying the public that that meeting was held or was to be held.
Correct. It was a duly noticed public meeting, just like today's meeting is a duly noticed public meeting, and the members of the public are here.
Okay, yeah. I just want that to be part of the record, okay?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Where was it published, Dane, if you can tell us, please?
On the City of New Orleans website.
Okay.
Ready to proceed with the introduction, Dane? And
Yes, the first candidate is Patrice Rose.
hello, Patrice.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Patrice Rose. I am the Chief of Inspections and Evaluations at the New Orleans Office of Inspector General. currently. I appreciate the members of the Ethics Review Board and Dr. Cowan for giving me the opportunity to present today. I hope to spend just a few minutes talking about who I am, my professional experience, and then just a couple more minutes on what I would like to see from the Office of the Independent Police Monitor. So who am I? I am a New Orleans native from Algiers. I'm a graduate of Eleanor McMain High School. People from the city want to know, what high school did you go to? I went to McMain. I'm married with one daughter, and I'm a member of the local chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am professionally a civic-minded professional who believes in fairness and transparency. I obtained a bachelor's degree from Hampton University in Virginia, and then a master's in public health from the University of South Florida. And after working in the field of public health for several years, I went back to school and got a law degree from the Southern University Law Center. I started my career at the Louisiana State Health Department, conducting surveys and evaluating programs that provided education to the public and to the community about chronic diseases in the state. I then moved to Xavier University, where I managed a grant-funded program that provided funds to staff members who were conducting chronic disease research and doing education as well. And part of the responsibility that I had there was also to develop and maintain community advisory groups and expert advisory groups. So after law school, I joined the OIG to join my two interests, one being public policy and the other being the law, where I hope to affect positive change through government oversight. Over the course of my years at the OIG, I've obtained a few certifications because I strive to be up to date in the field of oversight and compliance. So in 2018, I became a certified fraud examiner, 2020, certified inspector general evaluator, 2024, certified compliance and ethics professional, it's a little typo there, and then I started working to become a certified oversight professional. I took on the role of Chief of Evaluations, Inspections and Evaluations in 2022. Even though I had been working at the OIG for several years at that point, in 2022 I became Chief of my division. And when I started as chief, there were only two of us. It was myself and one other evaluator. And we really couldn't get the work that we needed done because our standards required us to have at least 3 persons. So since then, I have grown the division from 2 members to 5. We've released 17 public reports and letters, including 28 findings and 15 recommendations. We've identified approximately $19 million or more in potential economic loss prevented. That's the amount of money that the city either could recoup if they implemented our recommendations, or they could save by not following a particular course of action. And by contrast, the evaluations division only garnered about $2 million in PELP in the 4 years prior to my becoming the chief. I've presented findings from my reports at national conferences and before prominent international visitors to the city. Some of the reports that I've done, of the 17 that have been done since 2022, have been directly related to NOPD and NOPD policies and procedures. And in the course of those projects, I've met with officers, I have conducted policy reviews, analyzed NOPD data, provided findings and recommendations to the NOPD. And in addition to the various reports that I personally have worked on or overseen, I've also worked with OIG investigators to analyze data related to NOPD for their numerous investigations. So my vision for the office, my personal vision for the office, is that it would be an independent office that provides unbiased, objective reviews while also strengthening relations between the NOPD and the public. The city code has a lot there's a lot in the city code in terms of what this office is supposed to do. They are supposed to review complaints, internal investigations, discipline, use of force, critical incidents, in custody deaths, collect and analyze data, review PIB policies and procedures, issues related to supervision, NOPD's risk management, and the effectiveness of the early warning system. Also assess the quality and timeliness of NOPD investigations and conduct pattern analysis. That's a lot. That's a lot for one office to handle. So how do I see all of that happening? The IPM, the Office of the Independent Police Monitor, gets approximately $1 to $1.2 million every year. And while that seems like a lot of money, for the amount of things that they're required to do, it's really not enough. So it's critical that this office make the most of every dollar. And in order to do that, I would streamline the operations and hopefully use that money to hire additional staff. While the office is doing a lot of things right now, there are areas that I feel need a little bit more attention. And one of them is the risk management, early warning system, and pattern analysis. This is a core function that the Code of Ordinance and the Memorandum of Understanding that the Office of the Independent Police Monitor and the NOPD have in their MOU. The MOU actually addresses this 7 times. And right now, the NOPD's early warning system is suboptimal. It's not working the way that it's supposed to work. But the IPM is supposed to provide an assessment of that early warning system. For those who may not know, the early warning system is a mechanism that the NOPD is supposed to use in order to identify patterns of behavior in police officers that may indicate negative interactions with the public. And so this is very important that the public and the Independent Police Monitor is assessing whether or not the NOPD is actually monitoring those behaviors. Another area where I think there's an opportunity is to evaluate the academy training. The IPM is currently involved in providing some training and involved in the academy training, but there also needs to be an evaluation of the effectiveness of that training. Here are a couple of areas where the consent decree monitor, we know that the New Orleans Police Department, the consent decree is now ended. And here are some things that were under the responsibility of either the consent decree monitor or the NOPD had these responsibilities as a component of the consent decree. But now that the consent decree is over, there's not necessarily this mandate anymore. And so I'm advocating that these are some things that the IPM can take up themselves to make sure that the measures and the gains that were made under the consent decree do not slip back. And one of them is to revive the PCABs, the Community Advisory Boards. This is not technically a responsibility of the Independent Police Monitor, but I think it is something that because the NOPD had this responsibility and they are now floundering, I think it's something the IPM can do to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you say. Also, the audit of the PIB data and reports. This is another responsibility of the consent decree monitor that I think could be done by the IPM. So, final thoughts. I feel like oversight, if I was appointed, my goal would not be to take a sledgehammer to this office and dismantle all of the work that is currently being done. Rather, it would be to carefully consider each program, assess whether they help the office meet the objectives laid out in the ordinance, and whether they contribute to a process that is independent, transparent, and unbiased. So, thank you for this opportunity. Any questions?
Ms. Rose, thank you for your presentation and for your obvious professionalism. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're familiar, I can see, with the final report
Yes, I am.
of the monitor.
I am.
Would you point out a thing or two in there that struck you as really important?
I definitely felt like the issue of the early warning system was important. As I said, it's mentioned several times in the MOU, but in the monitor's report, he discussed the fact that the NOPD has not created a new system. The one that they have right now is not functioning, and he stressed the fact that it does need to be revived so that the patterns can be reviewed.
Some people look at that report of 12 years of monitoring and they see a waste of time or a boondoggle. Other people look at it and see a remarkable transformation of our police department underway. What would your view be?
I think that the police department has definitely been transformed over the course of the years that we had a consent decree. I don't think that we are at a point where there's no further need for monitoring. I think that there are still some gains to be made, but I do think that there has been some improvement, which is one of the reasons why I feel that it would be very important for the IPM to take on some of the responsibilities that the consent decree monitor had been doing so that we don't slip back into some of those other behaviors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rose. Enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Question. You mentioned 3 areas. Now, I have a whole list of questions, but I know we don't have length of time. But you mentioned risk management, academy training, and community advisory board. I want to go back to academy training. How involved are you, or would you be, are you now, or are you suggesting to be involved with the academy training?
I personally am not involved in the academy training at all.
So do you see there's a need before doing the process that the young men and women that's going through this academy training have some type of knowledge of the community in which they're about to enforce, provide services for? Do you see a need for them to understand the importance of a relationship with the community? And do you see basically, I'm trying to see how you mix that into a training. It's just like any job, you find out what the whole job is about. And you find out who your demographics and who you're dealing with, who you're working with, how you relate to them. And so is that a part of it? Do you see that being a part of having a very important role? Because in the final analysis, after they go through the training, you guys are the ones that's really going to be part of this overseeing, making sure they have community engagement, accountability, and everything else. So why not have a role in that initial training in the academy with these young people that's going through that? Do you see a role? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, and I think that having a role in the training is perfectly fine. I think that it's a great idea. My point in the presentation was that after the academy training is over, there needs to be an evaluation to make sure that what was taught at the evaluation is actually learned.
Yeah, and I really think that what you're talking about now should be a part of the training.
Yes.
Okay, to look at that. The other part that I'm very interested in is the Community Advisory Board. The Community Advisory Board, I found, especially right after Hurricane Katrina and having in different neighborhoods, was very effective. And it gave the residents in these different neighborhoods an opportunity to come to these different meetings and explain what was going on in District 3 and 1 and 5 and whatever. Are those boards still in together? Have they been dismantled?
If you're speaking of the Police Community Advisory Board, from their website, it looks like they have not been meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So that individual who was the community policing part, there's no longer part of it. It wasn't part of the for the decree, to have a person to have these kind of boards initiated.
It was.
It was.
And I think that's kind of where I was going with, once the consent decree ended. In fact, it appears that these boards started slipping even before the consent decree ended. But because this was under the consent decree, the fact that the consent decree is no longer there means that they're really not obligated to do it anymore.
They're not obligated. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll come back.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Patrice. I appreciate you so much. I'm going to kind of stay in that same vein. My question is, what specific outreach initiatives would you launch to educate citizens on their rights and the role of the IPM? Of course, community trust and engagement are very, very important to me. So I'm just trying to see how you feel about that.
I think it's very, very important as well. And I do believe that the community advisory boards are a critical component of that. Right now, the IPM is charged with having quarterly community meetings in each district, and I believe that is where they provide that type of education. And I would like to see that the police community advisory boards and the boards that are already involved with the IPM on a quarterly basis could be joined so that information can be given out, information can be distributed. We can go old school. We can do barbershops and beauty salons, to provide information. We can go to churches and distribute information. Giving that kind of information out is critical to the public. Because I think while the IPM has to be very unbiased, I also feel that providing the information to the public so that they have the knowledge to advocate for themselves is a critical component of this job.
Thank you.
I have one question. You talked about opportunities as it relates to PIB audits and data. How do you see your role in, monitoring, or what is your role, or how do you see that playing out in terms of monitoring the PIB reports and data?
Currently, formerly under the consent decree monitor reviewed audited the PIB reports to verify whether or not they were accurate. And so that is what I would suggest the IPM take up that role.
Is that something that's not occurring now?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Excuse me, Dana. For the next meeting, we'd like to have some agendas, for the public. There's no agendas out there. I think for the next meeting, I don't know if anyone can make some copies so that the public can have some agenda. We'll do that. Because I have one in my hand here. So we'll make sure that everyone has an agenda for the next meeting. Okay?
If all the questions have been asked.
No,
go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I have just one more question. My question is centered around community. And I was listening to your presentation And how would you interface with the community?
How would I interface with
That's
them?
right. How would you interface with the community? You know, one of the parts of the this position is not only to work with our local police department and elected officials and everyone else, but also the community as well, and to present information to them so they'll be very knowledgeable about the processes that you actually have to go through in order to get things accomplished. Everyone has their own ideas. Oh, this should have been done, this should have been done, this should have been done, okay? But I know there's a process, you know, to go through in doing that. The processes you use. You have a very, I don't know how large your staff, how large is your staff? You said your previous staff that you was working with, you said you had 2 people, but you increased it to 5?
Right, but right now I am at the Office of Inspector General. I'm not at the IPM. So my staff at the Office of Inspector General is 5 members, including myself.
Do you see a need for improvement with the community through this new position? And how would you go about improving the community? And
I think, I have to be honest, I think that the community involvement of this office is commendable. I think that they're doing a great job in reaching out to the community.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question.
I think that they're doing a great job right now of reaching out to the community. You're asking me, do I feel like I can improve that?
Yes.
I think that I would like to build on the momentum that they already have.
Okay.
Certainly, as I said, the only thing that I can put my finger on in terms of better outreach to the community would be the community advisory groups, which have floundered in the last several years.
And that was my question, really. What strategies would you use to improve the communication with the community?
What strategies would I use?
To have a really meaningful relationship with the community.
I would reach out to the various neighborhood associations and meet with them. I would meet the community where they are. You know, I would go to the churches. I would go to the schools. I would go to the community members where they are.
Yeah.
And at their neighborhood association meetings, at anywhere where I think the community is congregated, that's where I would be.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Dane, do we want to move?
Stella Zemet? Are you all set with your?
Email is up, and I should be able to access it. So let's see if his email is actually up. He needs to approve sign-in.
Open up the mobile app.
I know.
Is it on the, open up the?
I mean, it should be, he said that his email is always open on this.
Want to pass again?
Yeah, I might have to. Unless, oh, here, let's see. We don't have the code. That's gonna call him. Maybe he'll approve it, yeah. Because he's the one who told us to sign in.
Yes. Hey, Steve. Get started whenever you're ready.
All right, well, I guess we're going to have to just deal with it in a scrolling manner instead of slides. To save time, I'm not an IT guy. So is that all right?
Sure.
I'm going to also hand out the PowerPoint for you. Here, I'll do it. And so what Dane is handing out to you is a copy of my PowerPoint. This one? There we go. Okay. So there's a copy of my PowerPoint there, as well as a case study that I wanted you guys to have a chance to read. It's a very poignant investigation that I did at the end of my career with the FBI, and it's very germane to the work that we're looking at right now for the office. And I'll actually get into that case study in a little bit. Ready to go?
Please
Okay.
introduce yourself and...
Okay, so my name is Steve Kruger. I currently am the Assistant Inspector General for the City of New Orleans, and I've got a whole slew of experiences that I'll draw from in my background. And you've got my resume, but I've only pulled stuff off of my resume that is specific and germane to this application for the IPM. And I want to draw your attention to three specific things with my background, and that's the DEA and the FBI laboratory experience that I have, as well as the FBI training division experience that I have as a senior leader at the FBI Academy at the end of my career, and also specifically the FBI Little Rock and Lafayette work, where I was managing those offices, civil rights programs. I managed everything that was happening in those offices, but specifically for this presentation, I'm focusing on the civil rights outreach, which for the FBI and managing the FBI's civil rights program, it's two parts. There's an operational piece and an administrative piece. The operational piece is where the agents actually are investigating civil rights violations from police officers. But the outreach piece is where I met with the U.S. Attorney and the DAs and the law enforcement partners in the community, we would have quarterly meetings in the community, and we would discuss issues surrounding civil rights topics. So we'd share information. They would tell us what their concerns are, and we would tell them, more than anything, educate them on what we can do and how we do it. So you can better, if you see it, you know how to report it. The most important part of that outreach was I got your number, you got mine. There was an open line of communication. It was the outreach. It's analogous to, I think, what most folks think of as civilian oversight of policing. I mean, that's what the Bureau called it, our Civil Rights Outreach Program. I managed that for Southern Louisiana, and I also managed it for the entire state of Arkansas while I was there. So that's the, I mean, I did 100 other things too, but this is what's germane to this office. So I handed out a copy of my case summary, which is really important. It's really impactful because it's a story of one agent, one FBI agent, which was me, who went to a police department to help them solve a homicide. In the course of solving that homicide, I tripped over and slipped on all kinds of unconstitutional policing practices by that department and the sheriff's office and others surrounding. And this is in your backyard. This is in central Louisiana, and it was 10 years ago. I tripped over all kinds of issues that were significant. I couldn't even believe I was experiencing it. It was so egregious. So I went back to the FBI office. I had already opened up a homicide assist case. I'm gonna help the PD work the homicide case, but I'm also gonna work this civil rights case because I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna try to verify that this stuff is actually happening. I couldn't believe it. Ending up, and so the document that I gave you is going to give you a lot more detail than what I'm going to try to do in my 20 minutes here. Okay. So, but I will get to the end of the story, or at least the most significant part of that story, is the fact that what I uncovered in that police department on more than 600 separate instances in a 3-year period, people were incarcerated in the city jail without probable cause. I couldn't even believe that was happening to one person, let alone finding out after a subsequent search warrant of the jail records that it happened 600 times in a 3-year period. That's 2 people every 3 days. That's terrorizing that community. And that is the reason why I became to understand why the citizens wouldn't talk to me when I was trying to help solve the homicide. They would not talk to me because they thought I was a law enforcement officer. They thought if they talked to me, I was going to put them in jail for 72 hours. Because that's what was happening. That's what the practice in that community. And it's amazing how far policing can go wrong if it's not monitored, which is the whole moral of the story, that if a system does not have a method in order to marshal its troops back in line, it will continue to move further and further away. The practice becomes the norm and becomes the policy. The practice gets further and further from the policy, and then if nobody's there to pull it back, it just goes horribly wrong. And that's a case summary of how it can go horribly wrong. And it's the natural process of how the culture or the practice of policing can get so off track. Because what ends up happening is the police academy, they all knew what to do coming out of the police academy. The minute they start working at the police department, nope, we're going to do it the way they do it because that's the way they've been doing it, and they've been doing it that way for decades. And that's the story that I was getting over and over. Those police officers knew it wasn't right, but that's how they were instructed to do it. And nobody Nobody checked them. The DA didn't check them, the public defender didn't check them. Nobody checked them. So it's a really, really interesting read. And if you have any questions about it, I am happy to discuss this at any time. The problem with that investigation is it took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to finally gain the public's trust, and I had 15 or 20 people at the end that finally trusted me in order to do something about it. And I feel like I gave them what they needed because at the end, DOJ did come down and they initiated a pattern practice. There's a federal monitoring program in place right now. They're still struggling with it. It's about 10 years old, and the moral of the story is policing, if it's not checked, can get off so far, and it can go so wrong, and everybody does it. So what was happening was I had all these headwinds in trying to identify all the stuff that was going wrong. I was trying to, it was egregious civil rights criminal violations, but I couldn't find a prosecutor in order that would take the case. Why? Because everybody was doing it. Who are we going to charge? So I couldn't find, there was no criminal remedy for it. So the only thing that I could do for that community was to try to get DOJ to come down and do an investigation and do the pattern and practice case that resulted in a monitoring program, which is what ended up happening. And this slide is basically telling you all of the entities that I struggled with. One FBI agent was trying to mine through all of this madness. The federal prosecutors, the local prosecutors, the state prosecutors, they all had one reason or another to not do anything. And I gave you the federal prosecutor's reason. The state and local police, they knew it was happening. They knew it was happening, and they did nothing. They just had their head in the sand. One of them, I'm not going to identify they said, well, if we get a letter from the chief that says he wants some help, we'll consider helping. I'm like, well, the chief's not going to send you a letter to come investigate him. So it was obnoxious. And then the public defenders, I called them, well, surely they're going to help me out. And they said, well, no, this is just the way it's done up here. And then at the end, as if it couldn't get any worse, I found out and discovered that the district court judge was signing arrest warrants and search warrants without probable cause. No probable cause affidavit attached. Signs the warrant, $200,000 bail. No probable cause. I couldn't believe it. The DOJ couldn't believe it either. They ended up coming down and doing their own investigation, which ended up in a federal monitoring plan for that city. And it wasn't just the police department, it was also the sheriff's office. And that story right there is a culmination. There's less than 2 FBI agents that have ever done a case like that, and you're looking at it. No other FBI agent has ever done a case like that resulted in a federal monitoring program all by himself. And so at the end, DOJ did come down and they did an investigation. They initiated the plan, the monitoring plan. I did end up solving the homicide case. 2 individuals are in Angola right now for that. And I helped them with some other things. And the irony is I also, along with those 2 cases, I investigated one of the police officers in that department for corruption, convicted him, and the irony is that was the police officer that was the lead detective in the homicide case that I went up to help to begin with. So the reason I'm telling this story is to give you the sense that policing can go very, very wrong in your own backyard, and you don't even know about it. Those citizens didn't know any better. They didn't understand what the law was. That was how they lived. That's how they grew up. They understood that if the police were coming to talk to you, they were going to jail for 72 hours. That's just the way it was. There's a lot of detail in that story, and I think it's a really good read. And there was also the DOJ report is linked. I gave you the link for the DOJ report. New York Times did an article, ProPublica did an article on that investigation. It was widely publicized at the time. So now what I want to do, and I'd be happy to answer any questions after on that. So what I want to do now is I want to go over some issues or some things that were identified in the final report of the consent decree monitor. And the reason I think that's really important is, so the federal monitor was the captain of our ship in the monitoring of the NOPD. He was the captain of the ship, and now the captain is gone, and he's left, and he left us this document, which is the roadmap, which is the guideline, which is how do you keep moving forward? We've taken this ship as far as we can. Here's the keys, here's the wheel. Take the wheel, manage the ship. He's given us the directions and the roadmap on what to do next. So in that, I'm going to identify just a few things. On page 15 of that is the introduction, and he's basically says that this document was written to serve as a roadmap to the many stakeholders, which is the city. And specifically to the ethics board, he's basically saying that the recommendations set out in this report should help the ethics board guide the post-consent decree tasks that office might assume, as well as the abilities the people of New Orleans should expect to find in an IPM. So he's basically identifying what are the qualifications that you should be looking for in an IPM to carry this ship to its final destination. So in doing so, he identifies in the executive summary and in to some degree more detail on page 38 that the IPM, as far as he's concerned, should have law enforcement experience simply to contextualize the operations. I mean, it's kind of logical to think that if you're gonna monitor a profession, you probably should be a practitioner of that profession to be able to monitor it effectively, which is what he's saying here. And he said that his team, the law enforcement experience proved invaluable to his team to have the law enforcement experience. In addition to that, he also submits that the IPM should have subject matter expertise in the manner of civil rights, constitutional policing, probable cause, and use of force. Well, I would submit to you that the story that I gave you in the case, and that was just a part of my career. I certainly have the experience in civil rights, constitutional policing, and probable cause in reviewing over 600 people that were arrested without probable cause. And in addition, specific to the subject matter expertise and use of force, while I was at the FBI Training Academy, I managed the physical training unit that revamped and redid the policy for the Bureau for use of force. And that was when we added in the less lethal techniques into our use of force policy for the Bureau, for the FBI. And then the third piece that the federal monitor is saying that we should have is investigative experience. And he's saying that skill set proved indispensable throughout their tenure as the monitor. He was there for 12 years, and he's basically saying that the person who needs to lead this forward, the person who's going to steer this wheel of that ship, should have these experiences, these qualifications. So in addition, in a separate part of that report, he talks about the use of force. And it was a little telling because the theme of the use of force issue in the executive summary on page 5 and also in more context on page 19 is a general lack of cooperation, apparently, he witnessed between the NOPD and the OIPM. And he says on page 19, the relationship between NOPD and the OIPM has been a rocky one over the years, and the city should identify ways to foster greater cooperation between the two organizations. So this is coming from somebody who's been doing the monitoring for 12 years. In addition, on page 32 and 33, where I think I'm value added in this office, especially is in the training piece. So After the investigation was over that led to the beginning of the consent decree, that investigation identified, quote, "The training NOPD has provided to its officers during the last several years is severely deficient in nearly every respect." And that was the status of the training at the beginning of the monitoring, right at the end of the investigation, at the beginning of the monitoring. Now, this document says that they have made strides to improve, but again, he's leaving. We're taking the wheel. He left us with 7 recommendations. Those 7 recommendations, I feel with my senior level executive work at the FBI Academy, where we taught and trained new agents, and all the executives of state and local law enforcement in the National Academy, I think I bring a lot of experience in order to get those recommendations met and get that training academy up to speed. Because when you have an outstanding training academy, a police training academy, you have an outstanding police force. If you have a bad training program, guess what your tree grows. It is vitally important that the training program is established, and it is running on high octane. And you've got to find new ways. You got to find new ways to train your troops or your officers. And the last part, which I think is, it's pretty telling, because in the acknowledgement, he's basically thanking everybody that has helped him and he's collaborated with over the last 12 years. He identified more than 60 people in that, but never once was the IPM mentioned in the acknowledgement. Sister agencies monitoring, both monitors the same department for years, and he doesn't even acknowledge the IPM. It's telling to me. And then I personally have collaborated with the federal monitor more than the IPM did over the past 2 years. And I was working for the IG's office. So understand that this is a key document in moving forward. It is our roadmap. It's the methodology that we can use to get better, to do what we need to do to get better. And the federal monitor is a wise man, and he's very intentional. And there isn't a word in here that is not meant to be in that document. And he's been he did this work for 12 years at the federal level of the department, and I really think that document is when I say our roadmap, whoever you select for the IPM and you oversee it, it's a really, really important document. It's our roadmap, and we probably should stick to it. So now the question is, okay, so we have this conundrum of okay, what kind of experience should an IPM have? What kind of experience shouldn't an IPM have? And the National Association of Civilian Oversight is going to suggest to you that the lead monitor should not have law enforcement experience because of the perception that it could be to where, you know what, if you put that law enforcement guy in charge of that office, the public's going to think all he's doing is protecting the blue wall. Well, I'm not going to disagree with that. I agree with that concept. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I mean, what about finding the guy who has the expertise, who you trust won't do that? Maybe that would be a possibility. But in either case, the city ordinance says you could. The city ordinance says if you got 5 years of law enforcement experience, you're qualified. That's why I'm sitting here. If it didn't say that, I wouldn't have even been able to apply. And then the federal monitor, who has been here for 12 years and widely respected, he says you should have law enforcement experience. So now you're sitting here and you've got an entity that says you shouldn't. You got the ordinance that says you could. You got the monitor who's been here for 12 years who said you should. And the point is, in practice, you actually can, because there's examples across the country where lead monitors have significant law enforcement backgrounds. And these are commissioners and deputy commissioners that are all lead monitors in Meridian, and the Louisville one just got appointed. So it can happen. And in those cases, what you have is you have a federal judge who has seen through it and said, you know what? I understand what the National Association is saying, but I'm going to pick the guy or gal who's got the subject matter expertise, who I trust is not going to be partial and is going to ferret out bad policing. So there is a precedent that's set for having law enforcement experience in the IPM position. Oop, did I go? I thought I had one more slide. I guess that last slide isn't there. But the last piece that I was going to do before I have some general thoughts is that, so my law enforcement experience is entirely as an FBI agent. I was never a police officer. I spent my entire law enforcement career as an FBI agent. The FBI work is not your normal state local policing work. We don't do normal policing. The FBI does not do that. We have the responsibility for policing the police. The FBI is the only federal agency that has the authority and the jurisdiction to work civil rights cases, to actually criminally investigate police officers. Our objective in policing was to police the police as an FBI agent. So I don't think, me personally, I don't think I fit into that perfect category of having law enforcement experience when you look at it from that perspective. And on top of that, I've never been a member of any police fraternity. Heck, I was never even a member of the FBI Agents Association. I am respectful of the difficult profession, but not a protector of bad policing, and not certainly an advocate of the blue wall. And I hope that this story, which is my life experience for 2 years, will tell you who I am and what I'm all about, and how I am an advocate for citizens who were terrorized for decades. And finally, they got some justice, not criminal justice. Couldn't find a prosecutor for that, but they got some administrative justice. And my final thoughts that I've got, that I've written down here are, so, and I think Stella has also said this, that the ordinance and the MOU are old. And times have changed, technology has changed, things have changed, and I think there needs to be a concerted effort to update them, make sure they're more poignant with the struggles that you have today. Instead of, I mean, I know the ordinance was written in 2016 and it was updated, but there's even edits to that probably should be made. The MOU was 2010. Lots changed since then. The future IPM, to prevent any backsliding from the 13 years of monitoring efforts, needs to get their hands dirty and roll up their sleeves, getting into the business of how policing works, and begin identifying systemic cultural problems that cause cops to deviate from policy. It happens everywhere. You've got to get in there and find it. That's the issue. You can't wait for it to show up. You've got to get in there beforehand and find it and stop it so that the practice doesn't deviate from the policy. The office, the IPM office, should have law enforcement experience and an auditing capacity. There is a lot of auditing that needs to be done. And I've got some other things, but I'll finish with this, that that I think my experience lends itself to having experience both in the laboratory, that I think I can be helpful. I think I can be helpful in the training academy, and I certainly can think I can be helpful in making sure that the practices stick to the policy.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kruger. I think we have 20 minutes for these interviews. One thing I want to say in this interviewing process, the MOU and the processes may be old, but one thing that is not is the community and their relationship with the police officers and all the other leading law enforcement entities in the city of New Orleans. The important part to me that you mentioned, and I want to talk about it a little bit more for you to expound on it a little bit more, is education and building trust. Education part of it is what we were talking about before, having a community advisory board, of how we work with the community, because that's the most important part. This is the community that you're looking at right now, the advisory board, and the other part is building trust. If there is no trust, then you really, you have problems. On top of the problem part of it is that I mentioned earlier about having a role in the academy during the training process, and that's how you're going to start the process and eliminating some of the problems you're having with new recruits coming in. I just want to see on your part, on those three areas of building trust, education, and educating the academy at the beginning stage of their career as a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, so...
And kind of brief, because I know other people have to have questions. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna answer that from my perspective at the FBI Academy. So we train the new agents in a plethora of different categories. We had all the federal statutes that we had to train them on, and we would bring in, we would bring in public. We would bring in entities that were that were advocates of the public in different areas, so that those agents could have a different perspective. They have to be, in order to be impartial, you have to be able to observe from different perspectives. Well, the only way you can really do that in an academy is you've got to bring in people from the outside to come in and talk to your new agents, and that works both ways, because when you have them come in and inform the new recruits get that sense, but the response from the recruits gives that individual who's presenting a little more trust and confidence that the message is getting received. If that makes sense. So and once that person has a feeling that trust is being gained, goes back and tells others. And we welcome that routinely. And oftentimes it was a little contentious, because we would bring in people that had negative views about a lot of things, to make sure that those new agents knew that these are the people that you're going to have to work with. So you got to understand it from their perspective. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but we did it anyway. Is that?
Yeah.
I have a question. Can you give me 3 specific things you would either improve on or implement with the Office of Independent Police Monitor that will help the NOPD continuously improve based on the roadmap that the Monitor's final report kind of lays out?
Well, I would be doing a much more aggressive approach on evaluating the culture in the department, a much more aggressive approach. And I would certainly, the first thing I would do is I want to have some auditing capacity in the office. So I can go in and I can start to find out where the practices are deviating from the actual policy. And that isn't just identified by statistics. You have got to talk to those officers who are doing that job. You've got to communicate. You have got to develop sources, if you will, that are going to tell you what's going on, what's going right and what's going wrong. I think there needs to be a much more aggressive approach in doing that. Certainly, and then when you have that information, you got to be much more active, I think, in the policy board. When the NOPD is getting together to review their own policies, that is the perfect time to start discussing what's going right and what's going wrong and how can we recorrect that which is going wrong. Because if you aren't doing it there, it's going to happen out there. And the point that I was making in reference to, and we saw it in the FBI too, and I'm not trying to throw stones, but if you're trying to solve problems with a complaint desk, it's not very effective. And why is it not effective? And it's not because you aren't addressing the issues of the public. You definitely want to hear that. But you want to stop it before it metastasizes to a public problem. You don't want to wait until it materializes into a problem with the public. So you got to get your hands dirty and get into the business of policing and figuring out why it's going wrong, where it's going wrong, where it's going right, and do everything you can to fix it before it creates problems.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve Kruger. We appreciate you. My question is, how do you plan to leverage technology to streamline the intake and tracking of civilian complaints?
Well, what my plan is to streamline intake complaints?
Yes.
So at the IG's office, we had, before I got there, we didn't have a formalized intake process. It was managed off of one of the investigators' voicemails. So we have a case management system now. Everything that comes into the office, everything, whether it's written, digital, phone, whatever it is, it gets documented and it gets memorialized in our case management system, so it's tracked. And we've got all of the, and it's marked and tagged accordingly. Now, how does to streamline it, once we set that up, we wanted everybody to call us with information and problems and concerns. Because the more information you've got, the more intelligence you've got, the better decision making you have. You make better decisions, the more information you've got. So I don't know that I would want to streamline. I would want to have that amplified. I'd want so much information from the public that I don't have space to store it in, because that's power. That's what allows you to make decisions. But the point I was making before is, man, you got to get in front of that, though. I mean, you want to solve these problems before they show up out there. I mean, it's like driving a car. You want to do preventive maintenance. You want to just drive the car until it breaks down. You got to do the preventive maintenance. And every hour that you spend doing that preventive maintenance is 3 days worth of time you're going to have to deal with on the backside with a problem in the public.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Going through your resume is an experience all by itself, and there's a great deal of diversity in it. Sometimes diversity is actually chaos, but your diversity, I think, is ordered. There's a pattern to it. There's an integration and an integrity. And what I find in there, what I see in there, and I haven't really had a chance to listen to you very much until today. So a resume can only carry so much, right? But today the person behind the resume was speaking, and what I see is, or my view is, that out of those years of experience, you have ended up with wisdom, with passion, and with clarity of purpose. Not all of us fashioned those things out of whatever we've done with our lives, but in my view, you certainly have. And I appreciate your service already, and I appreciate your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I encourage you to read that story. It's pretty informative.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess, just to give people a minute to take a break if you need to, and we'll come back at 4:55, and Stella will be ready to present. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please. Bear with us for just a minute.
Please sign the sign-in sheets, because we're going to pick them up and then go through the public comments after this. Thank you.
Okay, we're back in our meeting. Thank you. Bella?
No, this the one you're gonna speak on, see, speaking recording
Well, I'm gonna
process.
speak on all already.
No, you're not speaking.
We're ready for you.
Just if
Please begin.
they wanna speak,
Good afternoon.
but they just gonna.
I am Stella Cement, and I'm the independent police monitor for the City of New Orleans. I want to start this presentation by thanking my stakeholders, the public, the police department, organizational partners, the Ethics Review Board, and elected leaders. I want to thank you for the trust and support you've shown me over the last 5 years. I want to thank you for your appreciation of the integrity, objectivity, and value I brought to this work. Thank you for your partnership. I want to use this presentation today as an opportunity to explain who I am as a police monitor. I will start with my vision of the OIPM. Then I will move on to what principles are required of the independent police monitor to achieve that vision. And then I will finish by outlining some of my future goals and the corresponding initiatives for this office. First, I will address my vision for the OIPM and my interpretation of the role of the independent police monitor. My vision for the Office of the Independent Police Monitor is to ensure compliance and reform within the New Orleans Police Department, to amplify the needs of the community, and to make the New Orleans Police Department a safer and non-discriminatory workplace. Now I will explain how I believe the role of the independent police monitor serves that vision. These 5 principles shape the decision-making, priorities, and work of the independent police monitor. These principles are drawn from the requirements envisioned in the Office of the Independent Police Monitor's creating statute under the Home Rule Charter. The first principle is the law. These are the legal requirements that dictate the role of the independent police monitor, the obligations of the office and the work of the office, and the operation of the New Orleans Police Department. In the next slide, I'm going to go into more detail about the laws that govern the Office of the Independent Police Monitor. The second principle is the unique history of New Orleans, its police department, its oversight, and its community. I'm going to go into more detail about the importance of these histories in two upcoming slides. The third principle is understanding and adapting to the current legal, structural, political, and cultural realities of New Orleans. These are the factors that shape our policing priorities and our public needs. These could be realities like the consent decree coming to an end, spikes in crime, changes in the budget, and new legal holdings that affect employment law or policing standards. Factors like these are catalysts for necessary reviews and updates. The fourth principle is national best practice and standards adopted by the police departments and oversight offices across the country. This is why I participated in LAPD's audit school. It's why I attend and lead sessions at national trainings for police monitors and police officers. I'm a leader in this unique field and utilize this field for national standards to inform our oversight work and to advise the NOPD on what other departments are doing and doing well. The The fifth principle is to consider the future. I anticipate where the Office of the Independent Police Monitor will be the most valuable and the most relevant. I also work with the NOPD for them to anticipate what may be needed of them moving forward. These 5 principles are what shape my decision-making and my interpretation of the role of the police monitor. Now let's do a deeper dive into the laws governing the police monitor and how that translates directly into our work. I want to focus specifically on the Home Rule Charter Ordinance governing the roles and responsibilities of the Independent Police Monitor. Under the Home Rule Charter, it states that the Independent Police Monitor shall monitor the police department's internal investigations, discipline, use of force, critical incidents, and in-custody deaths. In this statute, under the subsection on public accountability, the statute states that the police monitor shall provide complaint and accommodation intake in languages and formats that are accessible to residents. Putting this language into the context of my actions, this statutory language is why I created the 24-hour hotline for residents to file complaints and accommodations in their language of preference, including English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And residents can file in real time in the format they are most comfortable in, including text, online, or over the phone, any hour of the day, any day of the week. Next, under the statute, the Independent Police Monitor is legally required to hold public outreach meetings in each council district of the city at least once every 4 months and to meet with police associations. It's legally mandated that this office complete public outreach to engage with the people of New Orleans, and it's extremely fundamental and important to the work that we've built together. Under the subsection on mediation of civilian complaints, the Independent Police Monitor is required to establish and administer a mediation program. Under my tenure, we've expanded it. We now have the post-investigation mediation program, and at the request of NOPD's district captains, we created the district-based community mediation program to help with disputes in order to stop unnecessary and repeated calls to 911 for officer assistance. Under the statute, I am required to make recommendations to the superintendent on discipline and actively monitor disciplinary proceedings and non-disciplinary proceedings, like the Use of Force Review Board hearings. This is why I've personally attended hundreds of these disciplinary proceedings, where I've given assessments and recommendations, both verbally and in writing, that have shaped force and disciplinary outcomes within the department. Under this statute, I'm required to be involved in officer training and provide recommendations. This statutory language is why I lead courses at NOPD's Academy on conducting constitutional and thorough misconduct and force investigations. I lead these classes to help officers write reports that are able to withstand scrutiny in disciplinary proceedings and court appeals. This language is why the Office of the Independent Police Monitor serves on the training advisory committees for the Academy and then partners with the Academy to lead public forums to get public input into the training curriculum for officers each year. I fulfill the legal obligations in the legal interpretation of the Independent Police Monitor role, and anyone serving in this role is legally required to continue this work. Moving on to the second principle that I highlighted, our unique history. When I talk about history, it's important to have a grounding in the recent history that shapes how and why we're policed the way we're policed. This chart that I'm showing here provides a high-level summary of just some key moments between the NOPD and the public. These moments may capture why the public may be concerned about certain police tactics or wrongdoing, like vehicle pursuits or cover-ups. These key moments also may explain departmental priorities, trainings, and even fears, because officers have been killed in the line of duty. Understanding this type of history of New Orleans is also important because whenever we talk about the potential of backsliding in police tactics and reforms, it's important to know what history we are referencing that backslide to be. What does backslide mean to you? To our community, what does backslide mean to you or to our police department? What version of NOPD are you referencing? And as the independent police monitor, I've been committed to hearing and understanding these histories and how they shape the priorities of today. When I talk about history, I'm also talking about the history of oversight, which itself has different origin stories. For some, oversight started with the consent decree, which was written in 2012 and implemented in 2013. The consultant in this process highlighted a report on the creation of the Office of the Inspector General and the Ethics Review Board in 2006. But others would point further back to 2001, when Mayor Mark Morial convened the Police Civilian Review Task Force that issued a report in 2002 to the mayor and to the city council. And that 2002 report led City Council to unanimously pledge support for the creation of the Office of the Independent Police Monitor in 2003. For perspective, 2003 was the year before the Department of Justice began their 8-year investigation into the NOPD. But even as I say this, I know that there's students and scholars of history that have told me that I cannot effectively lead this office without understanding the significance of the Office of Municipal Investigations, which City Council created in 1981. And that office was responsible for receiving allegations of wrongdoing in the NOPD and investigating it. What you choose to make the origin story for this office matters, because it becomes the basis for the purpose of this work. In the third principle, I highlighted current need. On that note, I want to address the consent decree and the federal monitors. For years, the Office of the Independent Police Monitor was seen in comparison with the federal monitors, who had the weight of the federal judge behind them and significantly more funding. But other than that, they had a very different work model. The federal monitors conducted primarily meta-audits of the audits conducted by the Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau within the NOPD. This is a different work model than the Office of the Independent Police Monitor, which utilizes a different approach of on-site monitoring, intake, programming, recommendations, reports, and public information. Our offices were created at different times for different functions. Now, the federal monitors are gone, and OIPM remains. It's fair to ask if there's functions of the work that were done by the federal monitors that should be adopted by this office. And since I worked closely with the federal monitors for years, as documented in years of annual reports and monthly reports, I think I'm well placed to lead those conversations moving forward. All of this work and information translates into 3 categories. Effectively, my vision for the OIPM. We ensure compliance and reform through reviews of investigations, advising on policy, monitoring, and partnering with the NOPD's Academy. We amplify the needs of the community by writing reports, conducting intake, running our mediation programs, and facilitating public forums. And we make the NOPD a safer and non-discriminatory workplace by providing recommendations, by monitoring disciplinary hearings and use of force review boards, and monitoring and advising on promotional processes, the Policy Advisory Committee, and supervisory decisions. Now, I will discuss what I envision the future goals for the Office of the Independent Police Monitor to be and highlight some possible initiatives to achieve those goals. Today, I want to focus on 4 proposed goals for the future of the Office of the Independent Police Monitor. The goals are to expand public information about the police, to build system improvements within the Office of the Independent Police Monitor and the NOPD, to ensure policy compliance through audits, and to create metrics to understand impact, perception, and need. Next, I'm going to explain what initiatives I envision this office should prioritize to achieve these goals. First, the goal of increasing public information about policing can be achieved through these proposed initiatives. The first of which is the creation of new reports that focus on relevant issues that matter and explain policies, processes, and impacts. Some of these proposed reports that we've already started can include a report on facial recognition technology and how it's utilized by the NOPD, use of drones by the police department and addressing misinformation regarding this technology, the use of force review board, how it works, what it does, and the impact it has on the department, from training to policy to police culture, and lawsuits and claims, and how it impacts taxpayers and the police department. Another initiative is to expand publicly accessible information and data about the police department. And to do that, I believe we need to complete the Police Misconduct, Force, and Award database. This publicly accessible database is a joint project between then Councilmember Helena Moreno, Capital Projects, the NOPD, and OIPM. This database will include public records of officer uses of force, sustained discipline, and award history. So stakeholders all over the city can search in the database for relevant information. Finally, we can work collaboratively with the NOPD to create informational videos explaining police processes, addressing misinformation, answering commonly asked questions, and introducing the public and employees to systems that they have to navigate. Moving to the second goal, to build system improvements within the Office of the Independent Police Monitor and the NOPD. One highlighted initiative to achieve this goal would be the creation of peer-to-peer mediation within the NOPD. This is a service that the NOPD has requested from the Office of the Independent Police Monitor, and the Office of the Independent Police Monitor is already informally providing. This initiative would expand our mediation program to address the internal conflict that sometimes exists between NOPD employees and NOPD employees and their supervisors. And these conflicts often bog down the grievance process and the misconduct system. Potentially, this service could increase officer retention and improve the workplace for officers and supervisors who need to be focused on doing the important work. On the same page, I highlighted another initiative, the truncated case review. This is based on public demand that our office is receiving for more Office of the Independent Police Monitor case reviews of investigatory outcomes and misconduct investigations conducted by the Public Integrity Bureau. This new type of case review would be less time and staff exhaustive for the OIPM. The truncated case review model would be a review of one question or one relevant component of the investigation. This could include a timeline violation question, the selection of the investigated allegations, or whether all available evidence and witnesses were considered in the investigation. Another initiative designed to improve our systems is to create a recommendation tracker. This would be a method to document, track, measure, and share out the recommendations that the Office of the Independent Police Monitor is providing to the NOPD. These recommendations come from feedback that the Office of the Independent Police Monitor receives from police associations, public forums, the media, and stakeholders. This tracker would close the communication loop and show how recommendations are formally provided to the police department, go under consideration by the Policy Advisory Committee that the OIPM is a part of, and then may be adopted or implemented by the police department. Another initiative designed to improve systems is to create the law enforcement consultant for the Office of the Independent Police Monitor. The goal of this position is to have someone on staff or available to the staff with a background in only law enforcement, who can provide their unique perspective and expertise to the reports and recommendations generated by the office. My next goal is to ensure policy compliance through audits. The two identified audits to achieve this goal that I would like to discuss today are a comprehensive audit of PIB intake and classification. This is particularly relevant now that they've adopted new classification models such as other. We would evaluate compliance with NOPD policy, relevant timelines, and legal compliance with civil service and the Officer Bill of Rights. The second audit that I'm proposing would be of the district attorney's case refusals under NOPD Chapter 1.2, Paragraph 16. This audit would look at case refusals and evidence exclusions to determine if there was officer misconduct or illegal searches and seizures that would influence a successful prosecution. From this evaluation, we would work with NOPD's Academy to create teachable moments and more informed police investigations moving forward. The final goal I'm highlighting today is the goal of creating metrics to understand the impact, perception, and need of the police department and oversight from the department and the public. Under the consent decree, there was a requirement of biannual surveys of police officers, the public, and those detained by the NOPD. The goal was to learn their perceptions of the NOPD, to determine the quality of police-resident encounters, to understand the attitudes of the police personnel within and towards the police department, and the general perception of public safety and police in New Orleans. Through surveys, we can measure shifts. The information gained in the surveys can inform projects, priorities, and how we talk about the work. And these surveys could determine how the Office of the Independent Police Monitor and the NOPD is best situated to serve in post-consent decree New Orleans. In closing, though I'm not here to defend my record, since you've received numerous reports from me on how oversight has been conducted and how the OIPM has become an accessible resource for the public and the police department, I do still want to acknowledge the important work that's been done by me and my team during my tenure, because we're a team of 7 people, and what we've managed to create is a great accomplishment. We have written reports on police responses to hurricanes, promotional decisions, and secondary employment. We have written formal letters assessing investigations, disciplinary outcomes, use of force, and promotions from captains to sergeants. We have written case reviews analyzing if there was misconduct or thorough investigations into potential wrongdoing or bias in accident responses, death investigations, neighbor disputes, calls to service, and supervisory decisions. We've submitted hundreds of letters of complaints of misconduct and monitored hundreds of disciplinary hearings. We've gone to countless officer-involved shooting scenes, critical incidents, and autopsies. We've met with the families of those impacted and then went to the Use of Force Review Board hearings where we provided our assessments on officer force and public safety. We have led public forums with the NOPD and with city leadership on topics ranging from facial recognition technology to officer training and academy curriculum, to hurricane season changes in policing, to how the Public Integrity Bureau operates. We've held mediations between police officers and community members. We created the Constitutional Policing Award for police officer recruits, which is now given out at NOPD's Academy's graduation. We have created courses for NOPD's Academy and taught trainings to every rank of officer. We created a weekly radio show to interview policing stakeholders, police officers, and the community about policing issues, and break down complex systems to increase public information and knowledge about the NOPD. We have done all of this while also handling public record requests, monthly reports, and all the other day-to-day work that we achieve. And again, we're a team of 7 people. I want to sincerely thank my team. I want to thank the NOPD, the public, and the Ethics Review Board for trusting me with this important work for the last 5 years. It has been an honor.
Dr. Cowan, do you want to start?
Ms. Cement, thank you for your presentation. I don't think there would be any disagreement with the notion that the relationship between the police department and the monitoring agency is important.
It is extremely important.
So how would you assess the strengths and the limitations of your office's relationship with NOPD?
I would say that our office, based on how much we're monitoring now, outside of what was ever initially envisioned by the request of NOPD and NOPD's leadership, that relationship is extremely strong. The superintendent calls us and asks us to monitor promotional hearings. We were in the room when the national leaders were brought in to do a secondary review of the promotion hearings, the promotion decisions that were recently conducted for majors and captains. We have been a part of the promotional process only at the request of NOPD leadership for years. We've been asked to serve on every new type of board they create, from the Training Academy's new training video advisory committees, to the new policy review committees, to the new serious misconduct review committees. We're always asked to be a part of NOPD's processes. We're informally called all the time for advice, and police officers themselves ask us to monitor when they're under investigation to ensure that investigation is fair. I would say we have a very strong relationship with the police department, and we're able to regularly partner with the police department to serve our community.
Thank you. And could I just ask, I'm sure you're familiar with it's been called the roadmap, the report by the monitor at the end of the process. How do you see that document, and what would you do with it?
I do not agree with some of the findings in that roadmap. I think that certain aspects of the consent decree that were extremely important have been enshrined under city ordinance and will continue. And many of those things were not factors that were envisioned in the Federal Monitor's final roadmap. The final roadmap did not include any mention of the police community advisory boards, which we've heard today how important they are. And it included almost no reference to local oversight and the very important role that we've played in that process. Ultimately, I think audits are extremely important. But now that there's been this budget change in the NOPD, and we have seen almost all of the Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau's staff be laid off, a lot of those audits are no longer continuing. And that means that a lot of the aspects of that Federal Monitor's roadmap can't even be realized because they were dependent on meta audits of audits that were already being conducted by the Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau. While I think that there's a lot of important work and information that could be taken from the Federal Monitor's time here, I again would say that our office has a very particular jurisdiction, and there's only so much that we can go into. And a lot of the jurisdiction that the Federal Monitors were able to go, the scope of their work was defined by the consent decree, and it was the most expansive consent decree in the country, still to this day. So I would be very open to having critical conversations about re-examining our office and what role we play in auditing the police department moving forward. We've been working with community partners. I've written a document that envisions an independent police auditor who would be responsible for auditing not just the areas that our office has jurisdiction over, but the areas that were envisioned under the consent decree. I think that there is a way forward, but I think we do also need to acknowledge the unique differences between our offices and the purposes that we're meant to achieve.
So am I right that in what you just said, you find your reactions to that that roadmap that cost the city $20 million, everything you said was negative? Just now.
I don't believe it was. And if that was the takeaway, I want to be very clear. The roadmap was not the final product for $20 million. The police department that we have, the Civil Service Commission that we have, and all of the different systems and how they work together, that's what $20 million bought us. It bought us a force investigation team that we never had before. Before, whenever there was an officer-involved shooting, those investigations were done by the homicide division within NOPD. We now have that, and that's also enshrined in the new City Council ordinance. We now have an officer assistance program. We didn't have that before. And the officer assistance program utilizes the results from Insight and from other mechanisms such as supervisory feedback logs to be able to determine what officers are most in need of support and services prior to some upsetting event. And I will flag that very sadly, we had 2 reserve officers take their own lives in the last year alone. Mental health of police officers is extremely important, and that's why the work of the officer assistance program is vital. That's another thing that $20 million bought. It also bought social workers in every police district. It bought increased accountability. It bought a new public integrity bureau and new ways of conducting investigations. It has brought so many valuable changes to the police department that are undeniable, not to mention changes in technology, equipment, and training. The police department is looked at across the country. Agree or disagree about that, but it is. And it is a model to other police departments. And I would like to believe that our office has played a role in helping get it to that point. And I'm proud of the work that we've done with our partners at that department. By no means are the things that I want to say about this police department and the work, the very important work that it's done under the consent decree wasn't worth the money and wasn't worth acknowledgement. It was powerful, important work, and I'm thankful for it.
Thank you for that response to that. Really appreciate it. In your presentation, I understand the commitment of your office and your staff, your small staff, and the work that's being done. My interest, and to ask a question to you, is based upon how are you delivering that message and that compassion and that education to understand exactly the roadmap that you are following and the processes that you have to go through to the general public. What type of support are you receiving from the public? What type of information, how often are you asking for comments or recommendations from the community in order to build up a level of trust? When you have the different obligations that you must meet, you need support from the community.
Yes.
But if the community does not understand exactly what your role is, and they only hear about it, so what would you do to make that difference, to get that support and trust in the community to support what you're doing?
That's a really important question. I look at it in terms of 2 answers. There's what I'm doing to be able to get awareness about our office and our resources out there, and then what I'm doing to be able to get the support and input from the community to be able to continue our work.
Yeah.
So to be able to get awareness out there, we had a billboard campaign about our 24-hour hotline. We had the radio show that was on WBOK on Fridays at noon for a year and a half, where we interviewed like the chief of police, deputy chiefs, community members, organizational partners, lawyers, elected leaders, and police monitors and other police chiefs from across the country. We have held public forums all over the city, the West Bank, New Orleans East, Hollygrove, you name it, we've held a public forum there. We also try to hold less formalized events, such as Coffee with the IPM. We try to utilize social media platforms to be able to reach people where they are. We understand that social media has turned into such a vital communication tool for our community and our public to be able to see things about the police department and talk about their experiences with the police department. And I will say it's hard to see, but we are tagged in a lot of videos on social media by the public for people that want us to know about something that happened or want us to review or get involved in something that happened. We try to be interviewed by local news. We try to engage with our media. We try to partner with NOPD on events that they're doing. We try to partner with elected officials on events they're doing, from fun stuff to informational stuff. We try to find a way to get incorporated so that way we can kind of ride their tailwinds, because we know that they might have a larger budget and more access and more followers than we do. We try to get creative about the way that we're reaching the public and raising awareness about our office. But if I can be honest for a moment, there's still so much work to be done, because all the time people don't know who we are, what we do, or how to reach us. So I wildly welcome the support of the community in helping make us a well-known name and a well-known resource, just like 311, for people to be able to utilize our services. Again, they can call our hotline 24 hours a day in any language of their preference. So we want to make sure the community knows how to utilize our services, but knows how to support our office and give us their input into how the NOPD is operating. And the NOPD can only be as good as the community feedback that we're receiving about it. Community feedback is vital. What I say in all of my trainings to NOPD is the community is not an obstacle, it's actually your greatest resource in crime prevention and crime solving. And so we really do want the community to come to the table and be a part of these processes, which is why we try to get NOPD leadership out of NOPD's headquarters on Poydras, which is really difficult to get into. It's really difficult to break in. And we bring them out and we bring them to Nord centers in the Treme and the lower 9th Ward, and we make them available to the public so everybody can come and can engage. And we also stream. We're streaming right now on our social media account, so people can comment and email and engage online even though they're not here. But again, there's still so much work to be done, and we have to be very, very mindful in how we partner and move ahead with people, because it was brought to my attention by the Ethics Review Board last year that partnering with elected officials, particularly during campaign years, could give the wrongful impression that we're not independent. And I was very thankful for that feedback, and that's why we now include disclaimers in our photos and in our reports to try to explain that. But we want to find ways to be able to reach as many people as possible while not unintentionally excluding anyone, offending anyone, because we are government, and we want to make sure that that we're bringing people in and not turning them off.
Are we still on WBOK?
No, sadly, we had to cut that with the budget.
Okay.
The budget change.
Okay, thank you.
But all of those radio shows are recorded and part of our policing archives, which actually we partnered with a wonderful community leader to get all of their resources about policing from the 80s, the 90s, what have you, and we put them all online, and we created a policing archive, which is available to reporters, researchers, community members, the media. And now all of our radio shows are also part of that public record. So people can go back and re-listen to those shows, almost like podcasts, to be able to hear directly from the NOPD or from different leaders about different policing issues and understand these systems.
I would recommend also to all the interviewees today to consider looking at the different universities we have here in the city of New Orleans, because each one of them has a police department. And you have over 20,000 or 25,000 young people that's coming into this city every day and bringing their parents with them. So please consider that as part of your interviewing processes and how we reach out to more people in the community.
Thank you, that's great feedback.
Any questions?
I was noticing the goals you outlined. Do you see there being a need for a larger budget with the goals that you have outlined?
I'm so sorry.
A larger budget with some of the goals you have outlined?
Of course, my office would love additional money. However, as was brought to our attention by the Ethics Review Board in previous years, when our office did work with the CAO and with City Council to be able to get additional money to be able to achieve some goals that we had that year, we need to be mindful about additional streams of money, funding that comes to our office and who it's coming from, and if there's anything that's tied to that funding that might alter our independence or the perception of our independence. For that reason, we do not currently have any plans to ask City Council for a larger cut of funding other than what we receive under the general fund. And due to our commitment to the Ethics Review Board, any additional funding that our office does pursue, we would notify the Ethics Review Board in advance. That said, I think there's a lot of programmatic areas of our office that would be supported through grants, and that is something that I would like to pursue moving forward. Not that that doesn't have its own catch, but it's different.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think unless there are any more questions, we're going to move to the public comment period. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would say that with the budget crisis, I think lots of things are up in the air. You know, there's uncertainty, but certainly the Ethics Review Board could ask the council for additional funding, and that's a project that the ERB should and could work on together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Cialino is going to call for the individuals who want to come up and speak. That you've signed the sheets. You'll be allowed 2 minutes to speak to the board and the public. Thank you.
Right, and as the agenda says, we're going to start with sheet 1, then go to sheet 2, 3, 4, and then start back with the second person on sheet 1, 2, 3, 4, until we run out of the 30 minutes. So the first person up on sheet 1 is Kim Ford.
Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, she.
I'm sorry, it's Kim Ford. Kim Ford.
This is for the speak Priscilla Smith. Come on, Lisa.
Are you going to speak?
Well, she and I came in here. We were the first ones here today. And she was the first one here, and she brought me in. So I didn't know anything about it. I found out about it from her. So she was the first one here.
Okay, all right.
And how that list came about, you called for the list after we were already here. You were the last one to arrive. So you wouldn't know who was here first, right? But you had the list, so hey, that's how that went. Sorry, but that's how it went. It's just being honest with you.
No. So Kim Ford is first. If Kim Ford doesn't want to speak on the...
Yeah, I do want to speak.
Well, then,
that's not what I said.
Excuse me, can you clarify what sheet 1, 2, 3 are? That would help me.
yeah, the first, in alphabetical order. C for what is the point of sheet 1?
Yeah,
that's right.
describe what sheet 1 is.
Yeah, sheet 1 it says speak regarding Dement. Sheet 2 in alphabetical order is speak regarding Kruger. Sheet 3 in alphabetical order is speak regarding Rose, and sheet 4 is speak regarding the process.
Let me show you something. See right there where it says one, right there, see where it says one? And two, because you put the list out. But it has the number.
You
right
messed it
now.
up.
It is very clear. I mean, I'm
We
looking
tried
at
to
it
tell
right
you
here.
that.
And I'm videotaping it online. So I'm videotaping it online so that the world can see that you have it confused because you came late with the list. And that's what I just showed to them. It has number one, Alicia Plummer, and two. And it's like that because he didn't put the list up there
I'd like
until
to-
late. Don't bamboozle this DS up here.
I'd like
It's
to
not our
ask
first
for
time.
order.
We've been doing this a long time.
Everyone will be given an opportunity to
You
speak.
know, it's not our first time. You can't come in here and change the rules.
Ma'am.
That's why two is first.
Let's
because
get
he was late.
let's get the meeting moving forward.
Okay, yeah, let's
Everyone
do that.
will have an
But don't
opportunity
say I don't
to
want
speak.
That's when we gonna have a
Ma'am,
problem.
please, let's get the meeting.
I ain't disrespecting you, ma'am.
No, there's no intention for disrespect.
Yes, it is.
Let's-
Yes, it is.
Let's respect Ms. Samet.
Don't do that to me. I
Kruger.
don't deserve that. You might not know me, but I'm not brand new here.
That's right. He did.
You might not know me, but I'm not brand new.
Would you guys like to get back to the meeting? Let's,
I definitely would like to get
please.
back to the
So
meeting.
let's,
That's why I'm.
let's respect the lady at the podium,
That's why I'm
please.
here.
Thank you, ma'am. I
Let's start your
appreciate
2
that.
minutes.
I appreciate
Go ahead,
that.
Alicia.
I'm
Thank
Alicia
you, baby.
Plummer, long life resident here in New Orleans, and I want to speak on a couple of things. First off, this is really a joke. A joke. Because Mr. Cowan shouldn't have anything to do with this process. Mr. Salino shouldn't have anything to do with this process. The IG shouldn't have anything to do with this process. Raphael Goyeneche either. And I want to know for the ones who works for the IG and is applying for this job, first off, they should have nothing to do with it. They should have a moratorium on those people trying to get these jobs. Where were they when the Inspector General said he wanted to shove a metal pipe up Sheriff Susan Hudson's vagina? Where were they when he said he didn't like the fact that Stella Cement has a fat ass and she twirls her hair in the meetings? Where were you all? And we were there when we were trying to not him get an extension on his job. He got the extension, plus he got a raise. But you all do a national search for Stella. How unfair. How favored are you all doing? What's the sexist that's going on? Stella is the person who should be there. This is who the people trust, and also police officers. And she should not be taken out because these people want her out. And the Inspector General himself should have been thrown off the bench, thrown off the board, but he was not. He should be gone now.
You have 20 seconds remaining.
20 seconds. I keep saying Stella's the person. Those people who are involved in this process, it should not be. Those people who work for the Inspector General should not be allowed to do this here. Apply for these jobs. There needs to be a moratorium.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Williams. No, he's going to listen. No. On one list at a time.
Board, thank you for hearing me today. My name is Chuck Williams. I'm the Chief Investigator for the Office of Inspector General. I've had the pleasure of working for Steve for approximately a year and a half, but I've had the pleasure of working with Steve for many years at the FBI. I think that is one of the things that will make him a standout candidate is that he has that law enforcement experience, but he also has the experience of investigating police when there's been allegations of wrongdoing. And fairness must be applied on both sides. And I've seen it in my personal work with him and for him that he approaches all the investigations in a non-biased manner. He will listen to both sides, collect all the facts before any opinion or judgment's made, and apply the facts as they come on board. And I think it's been mentioned here a number of times. I've also seen him have compassion for victims. You know, all of our intake is called complaints. It's the nomenclature of how things come into our office. but oftentimes those are from victims of crimes. And, I think that it is important for the victims to be heard. I think that their voice does make a difference. And I've personally observed Steve make sure that that happens within our office and back at the FBI. So I believe that he approaches interaction with people that come into the office with complaints with a compassion, with a non-biased attitude, and he demands that from his workforce. So I believe that he would carry that very well into the Office of Police, Independent Police Monitor.
Thank you very much.
Shalanda Cole Bivens.
Good evening. My name is Shalanda Cole Bibbins. I have known Patrice Rose for 23 years. I first met Patrice when we were both working for the state of Louisiana within the Chronic Disease Control Program at the Department of Health. At that time, Patrice was a professional epidemiologist with a master's in public health. She was responsible for working on the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, or the BRFSS, statewide survey, in which she was tasked with developing and analyzing large public health databases as a part of an epidemiology work group within the state health department. During our time working together, I observed Patrice being professional, thorough, integrous, and consistent in her work. Managing CDC grants is difficult work that requires unwavering respect for outcomes and processes, as well as commitment to accountability and accuracy. Patrice embodied those qualities as a natural leader, and I believe her background as an epidemiologist, coupled with her qualifications as an attorney, make her uniquely qualified for the role we're here to discuss today. I wholeheartedly support her and recommend Patrice for the appointment of the role. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Howell.
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak about the process. And I think you all are going to hear a lot of frustration from people today about this meeting. I found out about this Friday by reading the article in Verite. And there are many people who've been following and been involved in this for decades and did not know that this was going on and have not had the opportunity to respond. I sent you all a letter. I hope that you got it with some information about it. And I wanted you to defer the hearing because I thought the tropical storm was coming. That's gone. But there's another storm brewing here. And it's one about the need for the community to feel that people are being heard, they're being recognized, and that they're an important part of this process. I've been involved in this work for almost 50 years. I was a member of the task force in 2001. After we made the specific recommendation not to go with a review board, but for an independent monitor system. And we also wanted mediation, and we wanted an ombudsman. And we ended up, all of that got folded into one office, which was the OIPM. It took us years to get the pass for the city council. And for years, myself and Reverend Norwood Thompson, Ted Quant, several of us were on that task force, appeared in front of the city council, said we need to do it, we need to do it. It wasn't until after Katrina, when James Carter was on the city council, that we finally got it passed. And I would tell you that today, I think we are in one of the most crucial periods of this entire effort over the last 50 years that I've been involved in trying to reform this police department. And the decision you all have to make about this appointment is going to be one of the most important votes you will ever make on this board. And I want to tell you why. We're at a turning point. Almost every major police department, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, etc., I've sent you all the articles, that has gone through what we've gone through, had to come back and redo it. They have had relapse, they have had backsliding, and they have also had the situation that we're on our own. There is no Federal Department of Justice Civil Rights section that's going to come in right now and help.
I'm sorry, that cut off. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. The mic timed out. I am so sorry.
I yield my time. Someone yielded their time.
It doesn't allow, we're not allowed to extend the time. But I do appreciate your comment, and I do.
50-year history of civil rights lawyering in the city. Why don't you motion to extend her time?
Please look at 1305. It says that your call with the selection is monitored. You are required to use maximum words.
Dane is our executive admin and counsel.
Ms. Howell, we did get your letter, Ms. Howell. Just want to acknowledge we did receive your letter for the record, and we do have it. So your letter is in the record.
Just please look at your own rule.
Kim Ford.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kim Ford, and I was the first black baby born at Camp Leroy Johnson, right here in the city of New Orleans, on Lake Pontchartrain, for those who are brand new. But I am a community activist, advocate, and a revolutionary. And I've been doing this work now for many, many years, but most actively since Katrina. And most recently, in the past 2 years, I travel all across the country, from the work that I've done with the Independent Police Monitor's Office about the importance of police oversight, having fair and just oversight by a competent official, not just a former police officer or former agent in the Inspector General's office. I talk with people all across the country, and I work with families who have been victimized by police violence. So I know the work that Stella is doing, and I've been knowing Stella, and these people here, I have to, in my politics, I have to know you before you run for office, because I'm boots on the ground in the city of New Orleans. If I don't know you before you run for office, you cannot lead a division such as this in my city. I got a problem with that, because you're not here. You not boots on the ground. You got to see me before we get here. I can't meet you here up at this podium. That's not what we need here in the city of New Orleans. The city of New Orleans is a rare gem because we are resilient recoverers of Hurricane Katrina. So that alone makes us different. You can't come and do things brand new with us. We've been here before. We've done this before. And my time comes to a short. But I definitely stand with Stella Schmidt. I learned her last name. But guess what? She been up front. And she's true, and she's real, and the community needs that. We don't need to be seen or heard. That's not what victims want. Victims want justice. Oh, we want justice. We don't want
Bruce Riley.
We want justice. And we ain't getting it by being seen and heard. It being a dog and pony show. We want justice. That's what we want. We don't want you to see us and hear us, because y'all not trying to hear us. Y'all gotta give us some justice right now. Oh yeah, this is a deal breaker right here. It's a deal breaker.
Thank you very much. Bruce Riley, Deputy Director of Vote for the past 15 years. Norris Henderson sends its regards. I hope you got his letter. This process, and I know that if you cut short public testimony, you're probably going to get sued behind it. This process has been, in someone else's words, a joke, but a public meeting that has maybe 5 people at it is arguably not a real public meeting. A public meeting that has 0 people at it is definitely not a public meeting. There was a posting on the ERP's website on May 1st for a meeting that happened on May 5th. You're not Manny Fresh, people are not following your gram, nobody found out about it because nobody showed up. This alone was very shortly broadcast. Like others, I only found out about it through an article, and then even when you go to the City Council's website, it's not on the City Council website where most people look for stuff that's happening here. It's on y'all's like side website that's part of the city sub-sites and all that. So that is like a terrible way of doing things. And let's keep in mind, this isn't the police department's hire. This is not Mayor Helena's hire. This is the people's hire. This is where this thing came from. And y'all know this, and I know y'all respect it. it, and we need to make sure we go with that. And honestly, the FBI agent, he kind of mentioned this even to himself, no one's going to trust me. He basically said that. That's what I heard. And if you look at some reports the ACLU has done on the Office of Civil Rights outreach the FBI has done before, it's been criticized as being a way of monitoring and taking information around people's protected First Amendment activities, which is a violation of federal ordinances. So clearly, it's already a suspect situation, so I would just rule him out altogether. Ms. Stella has done a really solid job, and I really appreciate the work she's doing now around surveillance tech, because maybe y'all didn't know, but that whole thing about weaponizing drones, we should all be worried about that. This police monitor is worried about that, and I appreciate her for that. Thank you. And I'm available for a deeper conversation. Anytime. This is not a conversation.
This ain't it.
Megan Rackney.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Megan Reganey. I have worked closely with Patrice Rose for over 10 years, and so I wanted to just share my experience and highlight the qualities that I believe would make her an excellent fit for the independent police monitor position. First and foremost, Patrice is totally committed to the idea of improving city government so that it works better for all New Orleanians. From her work with the Office of Inspector General, she has a deep understanding of the operations of the New Orleans Police Department and city government overall. Even more importantly, she is also an excellent strategic thinker with a talent for identifying the root causes of an issue and getting to effective, constructive solutions. Patrice is unrelenting when it comes to getting to the truth of an issue, and also fair when it comes to weighing all of the factors at play. She's extremely intelligent and skilled at translating legal standards, best practices, and other resources into improved operations within local government. I have repeatedly watched her work collaboratively with a wide range of stakeholders to bring the focus back to solutions and improvements, even in situations where tempers might be running high. This approach has directly contributed to better city operations and an improved experience for citizens. As a manager, Patrice grew the Inspections and Evaluations Division at the OIG significantly, while handling all of her supervisory responsibilities in a way that allowed her staff to work efficiently, effectively, and in accordance with high professional standards. As a leader, she mentored more junior staff from a wide range of professional backgrounds, helping them to grow their skill sets and work to their highest potential. As a colleague, she has been a joy to work with, and I am constantly impressed by her intelligence, her warmth, and her character. Other than the selfish desire not to lose her as a coworker, I have every confidence that Patrice would do an incredible job applying her many skills and talents to the independent police monitor position. Thanks.
Julie Ford.
Hello. My name is Dr. Julie Ford. These opinions are my own and not those of the organizations I work with or for. I'm here today to talk about the process and to stress the importance of the IPM's duties relative to both public transparency and NOPD oversight. In late 2023, using public data, I discovered NOPD had underreported approximately 400 rapes to the FBI. Mary Howell and I brought this information to NOPD, and they publicly acknowledged and corrected the error. The consent decree monitoring team has often used our work as an example of NOPD transparency working, which they also acknowledged in their final report. Fast forward to today, and the data I used for that analysis is no longer publicly available, nor has NOPD publicly released any new internal audits since November 2025. NOPD's Special Victims Division reported a clearance rate of less than 10% in 2025, continuing a disturbing trend we highlighted in our consent decree public comments. These are just a few concerning examples which show a serious need for oversight and accountability, not just related to internal police complaints, but also NOPD policy and procedures, including investigatory practices and public transparency. Because this appointment is happening during such a critical moment, I would have hoped there had been more assertive public outreach by this board beyond posting meeting agendas on the city's website, which many citizens may not have access to, nor the time to check daily. It's important to note the rules for this search state the ERB is required to, quote, maximize opportunities for public participation. I would have liked to have seen candidates' visions for this office outlined and discussed in detail before today and before a final appointment decision by the board.
20 seconds.
I do plan to make myself and my research available to whomever is appointed as a resource in the future, and I hope sincerely they'll take me up on that offer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Christian Jamal.
Hello, I am Christian Jamal. I am a current employee of the OIPM, first as a legal intern and then as a full-time employee. I speak today in support of the current IPM, Stella Cement, and urge the board to reappoint her as the IPM for the City of New Orleans. Stella has a proven track record of success as the IPM for the City of New Orleans. She has been the IPM for several years during the tenure of multiple NOPD superintendents and oversaw civilian oversight of the NOPD during the NOPD's consent decree, including during the conclusion of the consent decree. She brings years of hands-on experience which should not be discounted. She has overseen hundreds upon hundreds of civilian complaints and mediations. She has been a firm but respectful voice in disciplinary proceedings and use of force review board meetings, advocating for the concerns of the community while upholding the standards set by NOPD internal policy and the law. The OIPM is an incredibly unique office with unique challenges that are near impossible to comprehend without direct hands-on experience in civilian oversight. Losing Stella could diminish the trust with the community that the OIPM has worked for years to build. During Stella's time as IPM, the OIPM has completed record numbers of complaint referrals, showing public trust in the OIPM as an office. The OIPM's mediation program has completed record numbers of mediations, regularly shows high civilian and officer satisfaction rates, and is viewed as a national role model for mediation best practices. Stella led expansion of the program to civilian-civilian mediations, as well as post-investigation mediations. The OIPM established a 24/7 complaint and commendation hotline. The OIPM has exited the consent decree, a testament to, of course, the work of the NOPD, but as well to the OIPM and Ms. Cement herself. The OIPM community outreach has expanded under Stella's tenure, including regular community events, public forums on relevant issues, and events hosted with the NOPD and various community organizations. Stella has direct first-hand experience in monitoring the NOPD. She understands NOPD policy and practices on a level only a handful of civilians in the entire city do. She understands policing, and specifically, she understands New Orleans policing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morgan Clevenger.
Before I start, I still have a question. Because I signed 4 different sheets of paper. So
Just speak once.
okay, that should have been made clear because there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to this. I mean,
Ma'am, you may
didn't
speak,
know what we were signing up for.
speak on whatever topic you would like to.
Pursuing injustice.
I apologize for the confusion, but you're welcome to speak on whatever you choose to.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ethics Board. I'm Morgan Clevenger, New Orleanian. I've been coming in this council chamber for 50 years, since I was a teenager, under Jerome Big Duck Smith and his tutorial about standing up for our rights is always going to be with me, as well as Big Chief Tootie Montana, another mentor of mine. So when I speak, I'm coming at you from deep down in the community. The first time I met Mary Howell was when our beloved musicians were being arrested in the French Quarter and Treme by the police. So we know that there's a long, long history of this community where some people see predators when they look at the NOPD and some people see protectors. The consent decree, the people that were involved in putting that together, part of that, I want to shout out Dr. Harris, because everything you keep talking about is community. And the consent decree was required because the relationship the NOPD had with the community failed.
Yeah.
It failed. And so all of this work for 13 years, 5 of those years, I have been president of a police community advisory board. And my mission was to turn it around, because people like Ronald Coleman, who helped set that bar with the consent decree and community engagement, they were disappointed. And it was a setup to fail. So with Stella, She's been at hundreds of meetings
Yes.
that I've been at for the last 10 years. So I have to say, we have to support someone that has the knowledge and the ability to go back in the community every time. And I will always want to see the community at the table. So we still have a police community advisory board. We just need your support to make it what it can be.
Thank you for your comments.
Sarah Lewis.
Hi, my name is Sarah Lewis. I'm an evaluator at the Office of Inspector General, where I have worked directly for Patrice Rose for 3 years. I don't think I need to talk about her specific qualifications for this job because I think that's pretty clear based on her background in education. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about her as a person, about her character, and about what it's like to work with and collaborate with Patrice, because I think sometimes that gets lost in selection processes. So what I've seen in working very closely with Patrice for 3 years is that she's incredibly detail-oriented, and she's driven by excellence in public service, by expecting excellence in other public servants, and that includes the people she works with, but also the people that she is reviewing. And I think that's incredibly important for a job like this. She is incredibly, she is very dedicated to following professional standards and best practices. And I think that's important as well. As a native New Orleanian, Patrice has connections throughout the city, which I think are incredibly valuable in this position. And during her time, or my time rather, at the OIG, she supervised me in several projects that deal directly with NOPD, projects that we have worked on, maybe because that oversight wasn't available from other entities. Those projects include projects that looked at NOPD's failure to report crime data, which led to lack of funding for victims of violent crime and rape, also police overtime, and questions about the validity of police promotions. So in short, Patrice is diplomatic, she's non-political, and
thank you.
Hello, I am Rose Preston with Crime Survivors NOLA, and we provide a wide range of resources to other crime victims in Greater New Orleans through our book, website, and social media. As someone who is herself a crime survivor and whose work over the past 20 years has been devoted to helping other crime victims, one of the most pressing and constant issues we deal with is sloppy notifications about rulings being made or hearings happening that impact us. And such a chronic lack of communication is infuriating and frankly negligent. And that's what's happening here. We just want to see things work and be shown the transparency of how things are working. And when we are trusting this critical right to a board like yourself, who makes these decisions on a vital agency like the OPM, then we want to know how important moments like this are being handled without the seeming shroud of secrecy. And this is urgent given the tragic loss of the consent decree. It's not fair to the community to have this so suddenly thrust on the community where you've heard, no one knew about it. It raises so many concerns, and we want and we deserve better. And I feel it is your duty and your responsibility to make sure that more time is given in making this decision. Thank you.
good job.
Edward Parker.
Edward Parker, concerned citizen, been before this board numerous times, way back when you tried to take the garbage contracts away from the black vendors. Over 100 people you guys have told us you interviewed for this job, and of the 100 people, the only experienced person who the community want is Stella Cement. You have two people who are working under the present Inspector General, and you want the community to trust these two people working under him. It seems to me that you're trying to reinvent the wheel. The community voted to keep the independent police monitor independent. We did not want anything in that office or any person in that office to have any kind of be influenced by this Inspector General.
20 seconds.
Miss Cement is who we want. She's done a great job, and this is a sham.
Veldon Bastiste.
May I just want to correct for the record, the city council was the body regarding the trash collection. So I just want to thank you for your comments, sir. We appreciate you being here.
My name is Belton Baptiste, a community advocate. I fight for different parts of the city. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Nick Harris because you thought about the community. Community is big with me as an advocate because the community is forgotten about. We listened to Mr. David Saline say that he just went on the website and post something. But if you want the community there, why you didn't go to the radio station? Why you didn't go to the newspaper? Why you didn't go to other things? You know, Mr. Nick, and I'm talking to you because you understand community, right? Bishop or Tyrone Jefferson, you understand community. And community is what that lady right there is. Listen, when Stella first came, I think I gave her the blues. But guess what? She worked through it all. You know what I'm saying? I gave her the blues. Kristen bust his butt. Trishelle bust their butt. But what I'm trying to tell y'all is this process looked like a fraud to me. And I'm going to tell you why. The Inspector General going to put two of his people. Now you're going to tell me, and Nick, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Bishop. I didn't meet you, lady. I don't know your name. But listen, 170 people, right? You had applications for. Right? Now, we know the best is Stella, but you're going to find two other Inspector General people? Come on. And they said they went all across the United States. Now, even Stevie Wonder called me last night and said something wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, this lady represents community. She even put a big package she didn't talk about with the Community Advisory Board of Oversight, her and Oliver Thomas. You know who stopped it? Mayor Cantrell. The police chief even talked about Stella. And what I'm telling y'all, Stella is right. But thank y'all.
Thank you.
Jedrick Roy.
Good evening. Shedrick Roy, former student body president of Southern University at New Orleans, helped to get the TOPS program funded, lobbied to help to get the film industry the tax credit from the state of Louisiana. Lifelong resident of New Orleans, but saying all of that, I am human. And in being human, life happens. Personally, I had a domestic violence situation some years ago. The police, NOPD, and not all of our officers are bad. 7th District did not even take my side of the story. So before I turned myself in to go to jail, I was told to go to the Independent Police Monitor's office. Ms. Stella, in that office, went to court with me for over a year. I'm sure the two candidates are wonderful people, but because of the connection to the OIG, they should not be, because I believe this office was created to keep its independence.
Yes.
And lastly, I will never forget what y'all did for me as a black man facing domestic violence, and the stuff that she explained is in the results where what's disciplinary actions should go to the officers or what have you. So everything she told you, she's the only candidate that pretty much gave you a mission statement and the purpose of that office. And thank y'all.
Woo! Jules Griff.
Good evening. My name is Jules Griff, and I'm speaking in support of Stella Cement for being reappointed as the IPM. I've worked for the OIPM as the director of the Community Police Mediation Program since 2017, and have the unique perspective of working directly and on a daily basis under Stella's leadership for the past 8 years. I've witnessed firsthand how Stella's direction has transformed the office and improved our capacity to serve the public and the police department. Under her tenure, the office runs more efficiently, has stronger systems, and a positive work culture. She is fair, professional, motivating, resulting in a staff that is supported, works effectively, and best serves our mission. She brings both big picture vision and day-to-day operational skills and carries goals to fruition. She is an expert in the field, frequently sought after by other oversight agencies across the country. As others have said, it would be a huge loss and a setback to dismiss the stability, experience, and established institutional knowledge Stella brings. I think it's important to say under her leadership, our office has worked to strengthen the relationship between the community and NOPD, helping residents better understand how they are policed and creating channels for that to go both ways. In all of our office's duties, there's an inherently public and human side to our work. Communicating with community members at the scene of an officer-involved shooting, helping complainants navigate complicated systems, being accountable to a very diverse public, creating an accessible and safe space for all to speak out. People who are often vulnerable, scared of retaliation, who may have been wronged and mistreated. Let us not forget our history. It was only 20 years ago that NOPD officers killed James Brissett and Ronald Madison on the Danziger Bridge and covered up the death of Henry Glover. Let us not forget that this office is uniquely vital because people's safety, dignity, and lives are often in the hands of the police. Our role is complex because of the relationship between police accountability and law involves life and death. We need a leader who understands these dynamics and can navigate with integrity, steadiness, and clarity.
Thank you.
Charlotte Piper. Charlotte Piper. Emily Walsh. And Madam Chair, this is the last speaker.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Walsh, here on behalf of myself. I agree with everybody who said that the Office of Inspector General, not really to be trusted, especially given, all its history of corruption. I personally will never trust the police, especially if someone from the OIG is our independent police monitor. I found out about this meeting at 1:30 p.m. today, and I had a really hard time finding the details. I heard a rumor, and I had to go digging to find out what this rumor was about and what was taking place, what time. So I made it here. Also the first time that I found out about this office, but I find it kind of concerning that not a single person has spoken about NOPD's collaboration with Project NOLA, which I'm fairly certain could end up costing the city a lot of money. The ACLU found that they were still illegally accessing the live facial recognition and still using the live tracking that they're not supposed to be using. Brian Lagarde is a retired police officer, but he's really just a police officer who pays himself. He's not paid by the city anymore, he pays himself, but he is in effect a police officer with no oversight, no regulations, surveilling the entire city. He's doing live facial recognition, gait recognition, and as long as that is going on, the NOPD will not be considered trustworthy by the community. The software that he's using disproportionately affects Black and brown people, and we're a majority Black city. A youth leader recently, Prince Holmes, was defamed on the internet by NOPD due to inaccurate facial recognition match. So I hope that that's a priority for whoever is appointed to this office. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that is the last person who is signed up to speak, and we are also 2 minutes over the allotted time for public comment.
Well, I appreciate everyone who did come to the meeting and speak, and if there is anyone else who has not spoken who has something to say, please let us know. I know that we had 30 minutes allotted, but I want to be sure that the board hears every comment that was intended for us. It is concerning to hear that that we need to do a better job at noticing meetings, but I am thrilled to see the number of people who are here today. We have made every effort, and I will tell you that in my 6 years on this board, I've never seen this many people attend a meeting. Please know that this board meets publicly every month. It's on our website, it's posted, and we will, following this meeting, we will look into improvements in, I think the board will agree that we want people to be here. We want to hear what you have to say, and I speak for myself, and I think I speak for the board in saying that we appreciate the people who took the time to come out. Please join us every month. These matters have been discussed for months, and this meeting today is a result of our February 16th meeting and the process that we were required to go through because we did not, we were within 60 days of the expiration of the appointment. We've had two issues discussed today. One is the notification and request for us to extend the decision. We're here today for these interviews. We looked at 60 plus candidates who met the requirements that we were required to meet. We put significant weight on people who had experience in our city because of the unique situation that we're in and the need for people who know this city and the community and what we've been through for the past 20 years with policing and a relatively new field of civilian oversight. I think the board is prepared today to look at the candidates who presented to us, but I think there may be two things for us to consider as 4 of 7 board members. Do we want to move forward today with the vote, or were there things that you heard that would cause you to want to delay that for some reason? I'm not suggesting that there is one. And if the 4 board members present want to move forward with a vote, then we'll call for a motion for a nomination and vote. But I'd like your input.
I would like to move forward with the vote. Of course, I had many emails to come to me, many phone calls. First of all, let me just thank all of the candidates. It's evident that all of you are qualified, but I had so many emails and calls and letters in support of Stella Cement, and I would love to see her continue the work and build that office. So I'll make a motion that we reappoint Stella Cement.
Well, I'd like to make a comment. So a lot of you may not know me, but this is my second meeting, and I too would like to echo my concerns that I've heard here about the process. And like Holly says, I hope that as a board we are committed to communicating better in the future, so that the community can know and can come to these meetings, because we do want to engage with you all and we want to hear your voices and make sure that you are heard. We want to hear you. But like the bishop says, I am also prepared to move forward to vote today. Thank you to all the candidates who presented for taking your time out to make your presentations. I appreciated everything. I've received a lot of information. We've all received a lot of information, so I'm prepared to move forward with the vote today.
Yeah, so there's a motion. Are you looking for a second now?
No. One statement before we move forward. I too, it's my second meeting, recently appointed to this board, I believe in May of this year, and very important board. But what's really most important is to cement and emphasize one more time how proud I am of the citizens of New Orleans, and realizing that there would be none of this if it wasn't for you, okay? This is strictly, and I don't want you to forget, no one to forget, all the boards and commissions and everything else, it's because of the people of the city of New Orleans. And these are the people, including myself, that we work for, and we're here to acknowledge and to hear them, because you're not invisible. I'm not invisible, but I do understand that. And I too did not know, once again, I guess the meeting notices and everything else that the folks were saying they did not receive and whatever, I understand that. But I just want to stress my deepest thoughts that it's very important for us to remember that we all live in these different communities. We are in New Orleans. I just want to say that. And I appreciate everything. We all work together as a team.
We have.
Yeah, my name is Nick Harris, and I am with Dillard University. Been at Dillard for 37 years. I had several positions, and now I'm over community and community relations at Dillard University. And that's why you heard me talk about community so much, because I am out there with the people all the time. And I realize, I understand what the needs are. And I understand when a person say that they didn't hear, or either they feel as though they're invisible. And so, but you're not invisible, and you're being heard. And it is up to the individuals been appointed or asked to serve on these different boards and commissions to listen. Listening is the most important part to it. So I just want to say that, okay?
I'm Sherelle Taplin, born and raised here in New Orleans. I'm a lawyer here for the last 24 years, had many different roles. Happy to be here. I was appointed or asked to serve by Loyola University, so thank y'all.
I'm Michael Cowan. I'm here as a consultant to the search process at the responding to a request from the chair. I think that she made that invitation to me because I served for 12 years on this committee, and before that was involved with Councilman Carter and others in the establishment of the Police Monitor and the Inspector General's office. So I have a long history of interest in this, and that's why I'm here. I am a non-voting member.
I'm sorry, thank you for that. Are you on the thing, sir?
I'm a consultant to the search process. Every year in past searches, the committee has used a consultant, and this year, that's me.
My name is Holly Callier. I've been on the board for 6 years now. I'm a volunteer. I was nominated by University of New Orleans to represent them, and I am I'm currently the board chair.
Bishop Tyrone Jefferson, the senior pastor of Abundant Life Tabernacle, Full Gospel Baptist Church. Prior to Hurricane Katrina, I did professional development for the Orleans Parish Schools. I serve on several boards here in the city of New Orleans, a lot of nonprofit boards, and I can go on and on and on. And this is my second time around with the ERB board, appointed by Mayor Helena Moreno.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd like to second the bishop's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 There it is.
Stella, would you accept the reappointment? Thank you.
Thank you.
And please come to our meetings. Please give us your feedback.
Thank you so much.
Not just once every 4 years when we do this.
For all the work this community has.
Motion to adjourn?
No slight to nobody.
Motion to adjourn.
We've been through some.
So move.
We're not brand new to this.
Do I have a second to adjourn?
Second to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Not brand new to this, but I'm true to this.